You know, back then, before the war, we had real geniuses of international raise your children. There is no any Kafka in the air anymore. Here your main purpose is your exterior. You get that? In Armenia, as they call it, the status of your family is your car. That all in all is four wheels that carry you guys from point A to B. Come on guys, relax. And when you have such disturbing phenomena in your life, there is no way you raise your children properly, because there is already a breach, you know.